Am I the asshole for wanting my husband to turn off the lights and faucets? I'm not sure anymore and I think I've gone insane. My husband and I live together in an apartment. I go to work every day at 7 a.m. and by the time I get home at 7 p.m. the lights are on in every room and the water's running, both in the kitchen and bathroom sinks. According to him, they're on all day every day. I can't work from home and we're wasting a lot of money. I've asked him if there's any reason he needs to turn them on all day, but he tells me that it's impossible to turn the lights off and water off. When I told him it's not impossible because he can use his hands, he says, but you have hands, you choose not to work as a mechanic. So I can choose not to turn it off. I told him it's different because it costs money and it's bad to waste resources. Am I the asshole for wanting my husband to turn off the lights and faucets? I'm not sure anymore and I think I've gone insane. I told him it's not impossible because he can turn them off using his hands. He says, but you have hands and you chose not to work as a mechanic, so I can choose not to turn it off. I tell him that it's different because it costs money and it's bad to waste electricities. But he insists it's the same thing because I can technically be a mechanic but choose not to do so, so why does he have to turn off the lights? When I'm at home, I turn them off after him and it doesn't seem to cause any discomfort to have them off. But he refuses to turn them off himself. When I talk to him about it, he says that I'm nagging him and that I should leave him alone. Am I wrong? We're a single income household and we could be paying less for bills if he would stop. Am I the asshole for using the same bowl for my daughter and my cat's food? So I have an 8-month-old daughter who, even though she eats solids, doesn't eat a lot. I have some little bowls that are the perfect size for how much she eats, so since she started eating solids, these have been her bowls. We recently got a kitten. She has a dish of dry food that is always accessible, and in the evening she gets some wet food. There's not a lot of room in her food nook. After a water dish and dry food dish, I needed something small for her wet food and decided the small bowls were perfect. My sister-in-law saw me feeding my daughter from one of the bowls, then saw me use another for the cat and got really angry with me. She said I was disgusting and unhygienic. I explained they weren't the same bowl and she's still saying it's really bad. Am I the asshole for telling my husband that him pretending to be poor doesn't mean he knew what it was really like? When I met him, he made it seem like he was every other broke person in their 20s trying to survive in the world. No parents or no family to help him out. He was crashing on his friend's couch and living paycheck to paycheck. I found out after we got married that it was all just an act. He was a trust fund kid who was rebelling against his family. Recently, one of my old friends and her family became homeless. I told my husband about it and that I wanted to donate to their GoFundMe. He was sympathetic, but then started talking about how one of the hardest things he had to go through was being homeless. We both know he wasn't struggling because of the trust fund, a monthly allowance large enough for him to live without working. He chose not to use it and I did call him out. Now he's mad. Am I the asshole for refusing to stop having girls' night-ins just because my boyfriend thinks it's wrong? I've been seeing this guy, Will, 27 male, for months now. He's so sweet and funny and creative. Fun fact, he drives 2 cars that he adjusted on his own. We don't live together, but we do meet at my place every weekend. He called and asked what we'll be doing on Friday, and I said I wanted to host a GNI since it was my turn. He asked what the heck a GNI was, and I said a girls' night in. He got quiet, then asked if I was being serious. I was confused as he started talking about how outdated and so 1950s these events are. He said I should stop promoting and advocating for those events and they're so toxic and flat out reek of misogyny. I was shocked by his rant, but he said that was his honest opinion. Am I the asshole for refusing to stop having girls' night-ins just because my boyfriend thinks it's wrong? I told him regardless, I still plan to host the event after he tried talking me out of it and suggested we go out together. He threw a fit after he suggested bringing his guy friends to join us and I refused since that's not how girls' night-ins work. He called me sexist and misogynistic for having a girls' night in and making it so obvious instead of being ashamed. He said my mentality will cause me issues in the future, especially if I behave like that in a professional work setting. I was blown away. He hung up on me after I said I won't stop hosting. I tried to call and apologize for lashing out later. He sent a text saying he was hurt by how I handled our disagreement and he's time to process what he just found out about my personality. This hurt me, but my friendship is important. Am I the asshole for telling my brother and wife that I'll be suing them? I, female 36, lost my 3-year-old son from a chronic condition that he was born with. I struggled a lot with his illness and received a lot of support from my family when my ex-husband was too busy with work than to care for his son. My brother and his wife found out they were expecting after suffering 2 miscarriages. Because of their financial situation, I decided to lend them my son's nursery to use for their baby under the condition they give it back when they don't need it. It took a lot of time and money to get the nursery, not to mention its sentimental value. They were grateful for my help, but unfortunately lost the baby 5 months in the pregnancy. They were in low contact with everyone to grieve. I waited months until waiting for the nursery, and I was shocked that my brother said that they sold it, all of it. Am I the asshole for telling my brother and his wife that I'll be suing them? I asked why they sold it and he said his wife was depressed and he needed money to take her on a vacation a month ago. I started screaming at him and reminded him that this belonged to my son and it wasn't for sale. He apologized and asked me to be understanding of his wife's position as a grieving mother myself. I said no, they should have considered how selling it would affect me as a grieving mother. He said it wasn't fair to scream at him for wanting to help his wife through hard times. I said it's not my problem and I'll be suing them both over the nursery and for every penny he made. He called me nuts, hung up, then called my parents. He called me callous and unhinged. He said, let it go, it's not worth damaging my relationship with my brother over a few pieces of furniture. My ex-husband is pushing me to sue. Am I the asshole for telling my husband our daughter won't be around my mother-in-law unless she shuts her mouth? His dad is a ginger as well, so it's genetics. My 1-year-old daughter is also a ginger. I never once thought of a reason why my daughter should feel uncomfortable with her hair color and curls until my mother-in-law made it an issue. My mother-in-law hates ginger hair. She always tried to convince my husband his skin is empty and his hair color is ugly. That happened since childhood. My husband grew up with a lot of self-hate which he overcame once his inner circle of friends tried to lift him up and encourage him. Now my husband loves his looks. My mother-in-law seems to do the same thing she did to my husband when she's around my daughter. She says stuff like how unlucky she is that she got that hair and how she's going to spend hundreds in her life to dye it. Am I the asshole for telling my husband our daughter won't be around my mother-in-law unless she shuts her mouth? She tells my daughter how unlucky she is she got that hair. How she's going to spend hundreds in her life to dye her hair, how the curls are ugly and not easily tamed, her freckles and all that. My husband's told her to stop doing that multiple times because our daughter will internalize all these thoughts and hate her appearance. She throws tantrums claiming my husband won't let her have an opinion. One time she brought a plastic wig to see what my daughter would look like with brown hair. I said the joke is over now, enough, you either cut that shit out or get out. She said I should be grateful she's looking out for my daughter so she doesn't get bullied. She threw a tantrum and left. I told my husband she wouldn't be around again until she stopped trying to force an insecurity. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay the full medical bill from a dog bite? I'm a full-time dog trainer. I also rescue highly reactive dogs. 4 months ago, I took in a 3-year-old Rottweiler mix. She came from a puppy mill and was found locked in a cage in the backyard, severely underweight and very skittish. She wasn't good around people and couldn't go for walks. After a month, she was back to a healthy weight and I was able to get her to trust me. This week, we're working up to walking in less populated areas. My dog wears a vest that says "Do Not Pet" in big black letters. I also wear a body cam to protect myself from liability, which brings me to this situation. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay the full medical bill from a dog bite? I was walking behind my 1-acre property where there is a lake and a path around. A woman and her young daughter were walking towards me. She wanted to pet my dog and I firmly said that she's training. The mother said it would only take a second and I said again no and please keep your distance. The little girl's crying and they're following me at this point. I turn the dog on the other side of me and we go to my backyard. This girl comes up to my fence with a piece of meat and is trying to feed the dog. The dog ran towards the fence and I screamed for her to back away. She just stood there and the dog grabbed onto the meat. The dog startled and grabbed onto her hand. Am I the asshole for helping my sister and her husband start their life together? My little sister recently got married. She asked me to help make the beginning of their lives easier and I agreed. We bought them a house, paid off their student loans, and gave them money to put away. At the time, my wife had no problem with it. But my sister and her had a dispute which caused my sister to call her a leech who thinks my brother's money is hers. Now my wife is upset at me for helping them and demanding they pay us back. She apparently used my phone to text my sister that she needed to pay us back with interest. My sister thought it came from me and was upset that I'd attached stipulations after the fact. I was confused and she explained things to me and I realized my wife must have done it. Am I the asshole for helping my sister and her husband start their life together? I don't understand why my wife is upset. So I told my wife that I can't just ask my sister to pay me back when she doesn't have the money to. She says my sister could make it the way we did. I told her that was unreasonable and she said what's unreasonable is you spending hundreds of thousands on your sister. I reminded her that we paid for her mother's hip, her brother's cancer treatment, and her father's hospital bill after a stroke. She said that's different and I need to get my priorities straight and drop them. While I agree, I feel obligated to help friends and family who aren't as fortunate as me. Am I the asshole for kicking out my girlfriend? So I have a cat named Raven who's 3 years old. My girlfriend of 2 years moved in with me a few weeks ago and it was clear she didn't like my cat. I didn't think it was really a big deal until one day I got home and he was just gone. He's not an outdoor cat and he never goes outside. He was gone for hours and I was worried until my buddy came to my house and returned him, saying he found him 2 blocks from my house. I asked my girlfriend about it and she admitted to kicking him out. I was furious, saying she had no right to kick him out. I told her that since she thought she had the power to kick my cat out, I wanted her out of my house by the end of the month. She cried that she had nowhere to go and that she would have to live on the streets. I didn't care and told her to leave by the end of the month. Am I the asshole for going off on the restaurant that gave me regular soda instead of zero sugar? Driving home, I felt the unmistakable feeling that haunted me all those years ago. I panicked and pulled the car to the side of the road, threw it into park, and put my hazards on before falling into a convulsion. The first thing I remember seeing was blue lights being taken out of the car and sent to the hospital. There, they explained that what most likely happened was that they gave me regular Coca-Cola instead of zero sugar. They took my license away for 6 months until I can prove to them that my diet keeps my seizures under control. How was I going to get to work? How was I going to get groceries? I went off on the manager and called the waitress colorful names, and now she's being fired. Am I the asshole for buying my girlfriend fake perfume? I've dated my girlfriend for a little under a year now. I've come to love her a lot, and my love language is gift giving. She's always been the type of girl that's just not hard to love. Guys always approach her, and understandably. She could easily be anyone's dream girl. Everything about her is feminine, down to her hands and how she comforts me or makes me food. She has an expensive look to her but does all her self-care herself and is amazingly cost efficient about it. Most of the guys that approach her are trust fund babies. It makes me feel like less of a man because I'm nothing like those guys, and it makes me feel like a bum. One day, while walking past her computer, I noticed she was looking at a designer perfume, and I told her I'd get it for her. She's very adamant that she doesn't want me to get it for her. Am I the asshole for buying my girlfriend fake perfume? I look into it and the perfume is $300. WTF. I don't see the point in that, but my pride would be hurt if I went back on my word, so I find a fake on eBay for much cheaper. She sprays it and she has a blank expression. I ask what's wrong and she gives me a hug and a kiss on the cheek thanking me. I don't know why, but it made me feel like shit. I was expecting a bigger reaction. I keep pushing and she tells me she loves the idea, but it's obviously fake. I felt this was extremely ungrateful and I called her a brat for even caring if it was fake or not. I said she was materialistic by literally just looking at it and smelling it and thinking it was fake. She said it's dumb that I made a big show about getting it for her if I was just going to do this. Am I the asshole for snapping at my friend over his weight? I'm a girl and I've been wanting to work out more because I've been wanting to tone my body lately. A close guy friend of mine has been wanting to improve his looks too. He is very overweight. To be exact, he weighs about 170 more pounds than he should be. He's been wanting to meet girls and find a significant other one day. When I told him that I've been working out, he was supportive and said he also wanted to lose weight too. So we've been going to the gym for a while. Over time, I noticed my abs were coming through and I was really feeling good about myself. My arms and legs look really toned too, but my friend started saying that I was beginning to look masculine and that he didn't like women with abs. I laughed and shrugged it off initially because I know abs aren't for everyone and we all have preferences. Am I the asshole for snapping at my friend over his weight? My friend started saying that I was beginning to look masculine and that he didn't like women with abs. I laughed and shrugged it off initially because I know abs aren't for everyone. And we all have preferences for body types, right? Eventually, as my abs got more defined, my friend started making comments like, "You're not as attractive as before with your abs and muscles. You look like a man." To be honest, girls with abs look kind of manly and gross. I've been into arguments with him over that and he kept saying I was better looking without the muscles and my old curves. I was really upset one day and I snapped. I said, "I'm becoming fit, but all you've been doing is insulting me, so go lose your weight and shut up." I feel terrible now that I think about it and we haven't talked in days. Am I the asshole for refusing to go to my brother's wedding if my girlfriend can't come? I, 31 female, have a girlfriend of 3 years, 32 female. We begun looking for a place to live together since we're very serious. My brother, 34 male, is planning his wedding to his fiancée, 29 female. I assume my girlfriend will be welcome to come as she's basically one of the family now. But no, my brother told me he doesn't think it's a good idea for her to come as the wedding will be in a church and that his fiancé's family are traditional. He said that she could come to the reception though. My girlfriend's willing to accept this, but I feel as though my brother's being unfair. Especially considering our younger sister's boyfriend of 6 months is invited, it's clear this is because I'm dating a woman. I told him if she can't come, I won't either. Am I the asshole for refusing to go to my brother's wedding if my girlfriend can't come? It's clear this is because I'm dating a woman, so I told my brother if my girlfriend wasn't welcome at the ceremony, I wouldn't come either. And that I'd just go to the reception after too. This caused a lot of drama from the family, and my parents and siblings are all insisting I'm overreacting. They're also saying how it's not personal and that it's not my day and I should just accept this. At this point, I want to skip the reception too. I just got off the phone with my brother's fiancée and she had no idea about any of this. She said they're not traditional in that sense and that her gay cousin is going to be her maid of honor. My brother told her that my girlfriend had work that day. Turns out my brother made a pass at my girlfriend before we were together, and he's probably holding a grudge. Am I the asshole for telling my bridesmaids my request for the wedding? I'm having a destination wedding in July 2022. I've done some planning on where it will be, and I picked the venue as well. So I asked some of my friends to be on my bridal party. All of them accepted happily and were excited to be part of the planning. My sister will be my maid of honor, and I told her to make a group chat with all the bridesmaids and passed on my request to them. My request seemed reasonable at first, but then my bridesmaids started backing down one after the other. I requested they pay for their own rooms at the resort hotel. Also, they're required to buy their own dresses and find their own hairstyles and makeup artists. Hair and makeup should be the same on all of them. I also suggested if any of them wants to dye it, I'll appreciate it, but they're not forced, of course. Am I the asshole for telling my bridesmaids my request for the wedding? A few bridesmaids said they have to step down because they can't afford all this. They said the dresses I showed them are too expensive. I said I offered 2 choices for that reason so they can pick whichever one they can afford. They said the choices in general were expensive. And there's no way they can afford a destination wedding and a destination bachelorette. They then asked if they could pick a cheaper hotel to stay at. I said I want all my bridal party at the same place. They said they'll step down. The next day I met with the rest of the bridesmaids who remained, and they cried about the 2 that stepped down. One told me my requests are not possible to fulfill for everyone, so I shouldn't take it personally. I said they're regular requests, and she told me to grow up and realize not everyone can afford it. Am I the asshole for causing a coworker to get written up by HR? I, 33 male, work at an office job with lots of different people. The other day in the break room, I was speaking with a coworker about the student loan system in the US. Another coworker, 36 female, who was eavesdropping, interrupted us. She said only people like her who have kids should get a say in what is taught in school. Not wanting to get into it, I tried to explain to her that that wasn't even what we were talking about. She kept replying that because I don't ever plan on having kids, I shouldn't have any opinion on the education system. This really annoyed me. Even though it made no sense as an argument and I told her verbatim, I'm not less of a person because I didn't pop brats out of me. Am I the asshole for causing a coworker to get written up by HR? I said I'm not less of a person because I didn't pop brats out of me. She got really flustered and left. The next day, I get called into our manager's office where HR rep and the coworker are waiting. The coworker goes on to say that I harassed by saying I told her she should have had her tubes tied, and that she shouldn't be shooting 1,000 kids out. I was very annoyed and explained that that was certainly not what I said. My story was corroborated by 3 other employees. I, in turn, filed an HR complaint against the coworker for lying about me. Now she's under investigation, and this looks like it might impact a promotion. People in the office are saying I should have let it go, and it was over the line. Am I the asshole for throwing my husband's dinner in the garbage? We have a rather small kitchen. There's basically only 2 places to stand or work while cooking, in front of the counter or in front of the stove. I have frequently asked my husband to please stay out of the kitchen if I'm in there cooking because there's just no room for 2 people. He constantly ignores this request though. Last night he came into the kitchen at kind of a critical point while I had stuff in the frying pan and was preparing stuff on the counter. He stood in front of the stove and I was just waiting for him to move so that I could get to it. He then said, "It looks like it's burning. Are you even gonna do anything?" I yelled, "Move." He lectured me not to yell at him. By the end, his food was burnt and I threw it in the trash. Am I the asshole for lying to my mother about quitting birth control? My mom's always been very controlling. Months ago, I started feeling incredibly moody and angry for no reason, and my mom thinks it's because of my birth control. Not because of me working 40 hours a week and having a rough relationship. Any chance she could get, she would blame it on my birth control. I told her I considered quitting, but she forced me. I told her I quit and she said I was back to my normal self. But I lied to her. I wanted to see if it was really my birth control. Work is more comfortable and my relationship is better now. Yesterday, she told me how much I changed for the better and I told her I never quit. She was furious with me. She demanded why I would lie to her for so long and she felt betrayed. I told her I don't owe her anything and it's not up to her. Am I the asshole for not wanting my fiance's parents to move in next door? My fiance and I live in a duplex that I inherited from my late aunt. My aunt was wheelchair bound, so her unit was renovated to be wheelchair accessible. The unit my fiance and I live in do not have the same accommodations. My brother's partner is disabled and uses a wheelchair. While they're renting a wheelchair-friendly apartment, their landlord has decided to raise the rent next year by a significant amount. It will put a serious strain on their finances. I told my brother they can move in my aunt's place when their lease is over. We agreed I would charge a token amount for rent and my brother would help me with maintenance. A few days ago, my fiance told me that his father had been diagnosed with cancer. Am I the asshole for not wanting my fiance's parents to move in next door? A few days ago, my fiance told me that his father had been diagnosed with cancer. While thankfully it's not terminal, he does need to undergo chemo for a while. My fiance asked me if his parents could move in next door since we live near the hospital and they currently live 2 hours away. I told my fiance I was fine with his parents moving into our unit with us, but I'm not going back on my agreement with my brother and brother-in-law. He said this wasn't a feasible solution. He argued that my brother can wait another year or so to move in and his dad needs treatment soon. They can renew their lease and I can help them with rent. My in-laws are well off and can afford to rent a place that fits their needs.
Don't read the comments, it will spoil the very satisfying ending. In 1999, a 20-year-old kid was obsessed with a 16-year-old girl, but she wasn't into him. Frustrated, he breaks into her house and demands that she dates him. When she refuses, he kills her. And then he kills her 14-year-old sister too. Or so he thought. The 14-year-old survived and easily identified Paul Powell as the killer. Powell showed no remorse in court and even called the victims stupid. When he was sentenced to death, though, his attitude changed and he cried and begged for mercy. And unfortunately, mercy would come in the form of a legal loophole that switched his death sentence to a life sentence. Believing he was saved from the death penalty because of double jeopardy, he wrote this ridiculous letter to the prosecuting attorney, basically admitting to every single detail of the crime, kind of bragging about what he got away with. So the attorney just takes the letter, gives it to a judge, the judge looks at it and says, "Yep, there's new evidence here," orders a new trial, and immediately this dude is resentenced to death. And a few months later, this lowlife was executed.